All right, let's talk about one of the toughest, most challenging jobs in our industry, operating heavy equipment indoors on a demolition site. This is a high-risk, high-skill environment where the rules are completely different than working out in the open. So this explainer is all about the safety code, the protocols that really separate the pros from the amateurs, and most importantly, make sure every single one of us goes home safe at the end of the day.
So let's just jump right in with the big question, right? What really makes an indoor demo site so much more dangerous than an open-air job? Well, it all boils down to just one word: confinement. Think about it. All those exhaust fumes, the noise, the dust, it has nowhere to go. It just gets trapped. Your visibility can drop to almost zero in an instant. The risks for everyone on that floor just get amplified, big time.
And that brings us right to our first section, your role on the team. Because on a site like this, safety is never, ever a one-person job. It's got to be a coordinated team effort. Everybody has a part to play. Look, this right here breaks down the partnership that every safe site is built on. For the foreman, your job is all about preparation. It's making sure every worker is competent, that they understand the hazards, and that they have the right tools for the job. Now for the workers, your role is all about execution. That means refusing to do any work you're not trained for, constantly keeping your head on a swivel and assessing the risk, and reporting every single concern you have. It's a two-way street, you know? One side can't function safely without the other. Okay, next up, let's get into the mandatory actions. These are the absolute do's. I want to be clear, these are not suggestions. They're the non-negotiable baselines for running a safe, professional operation. First up is probably the most critical hazard we face indoors, the very air we're all breathing. Managing the air quality, well, it isn't an option. It is our absolute #1 priority to protect ourselves and our teammates from dangerous toxic exhaust fumes. So, how do we actually manage it? It's a simple 3-part system. First, mechanical ventilation is a must. We have to use fans to physically pull those exhaust fumes out of the building. Second, we don't guess about the air quality. We use monitors to get real-time data on what's going on. And third, if those monitors hit a certain level, or honestly, if conditions just feel off, respirators go on. No exceptions, no excuses. Next, let's talk about the physical space itself. A chaotic site is a dangerous site. It's as simple as that. Keeping clear control of our work environment and making sure everyone can see what's happening is just fundamental to preventing accidents. So here's how we do it. We use actual physical barriers to clearly define our zones. You'll know exactly where the work is happening, where people can travel safely, and where the loading is going on. And just as important, every single one of those areas has to be fully lit. We don't work in the shadows. Period. Okay, our final set of mandatory actions revolves around professional operation and team coordination. This is all about being in full control of your machine and in constant communication with your team. Always. The action items here are pretty simple, but they are absolutely critical. First, you maintain 100% control of your machine at all times. That means no distractions, no shortcuts, nothing. Second, with all the noise and the low visibility, you must have constant contact with your spotter. That means using a radio or clear, established hand signals. Look, on an indoor site, there's no such thing as over-communicating. It's the only safe way to communicate. And now we're going to shift gears. Welcome to Section 3, the don'ts. These are the hard lines, the actions that are strictly prohibited because, frankly, they create an unacceptable risk for the entire crew. I want you to let this sink in for a second. When it comes to the actions we're about to cover, our policy is zero tolerance. There are no excuses, there are no exceptions, because breaking these rules puts every single person on this site in immediate danger. Let's be crystal clear on this. You never operate equipment unless you are trained and authorized to do so. That's how catastrophic mistakes happen. You never leave equipment idling. Why? Because it senselessly pumps toxic fumes into the air we all have to share. You never, ever enter an operator's blind spot. They cannot see you. It's that simple. And you never let debris pile up. It creates trip hazards that can lead to some really serious injuries. These are the absolute don'ts. And now for the single most important prohibition we have. This one gets its own slide for a very good reason. You never, ever fuel equipment indoors. It has to be done outside, in a space with proper ventilation. The risk of a fire or a vapor explosion is just way too high to ever compromise on this rule. Okay, in our final section, we're going to put all of this together into practice. This is about your personal pre-start safety check. This is how you take ownership of your safety before the work even begins for the day. I want you to think of this as a simple 3-step ritual you do before every single task. Step 1 is assess. Use your eyes, use your experience, and identify the hazards around you. Step 2 is inspect. Check your work area, check your tools, your machine, and your PPE for any issues. And step 3 is report. If anything, and I mean anything at all, is not 100% right, you stop what you're doing and you inform your foreman immediately.
You know, everything we've talked about really comes down to this one question. It's the most important question you will ask yourself every single day on the job. Before you turn that key, before you pick up that tool, you look around, you run through your checks, and you answer honestly, is my area safe to start? Your answer to that question determines the safety of everyone on this site.